So shared preferences is another storage method in Android for storing the data in a key comma value pairs, meaning if you want to store a value, if you want to store, we have to specify a key, we have to specify for every value, right? And shared preferences dot editor class is used to write the data into shared preferences, and shared preferences dot get methods is used to read the data from shared preferences, right? So in shared preferences, always the shared preferences is not preferred to store the data. So we'll discuss in which scenario shared preferences is preferred to store, okay, and internally in which format it is storing the data we'll discuss now, okay. So let's open our yesterday's project, shared preferences test. SPF test is a project we created. This is what the logic we written. So globally we create an object for shared preferences, and we given a name for shared preferences called myprfs, and we are writing the data into shared preferences, username, password, mobile number, and email. Shared preferences dot editor class is used to write the data into shared preferences. After writing the data, call the commit method to write the data into shared preferences. Next, to read the data from shared preferences, the shared preferences object dot get methods is used to read the data from shared preferences. Now let's see here. internally shared preferences will maintain the data internally shared preferences will maintain the data in a XML file. Internally shared preferences will maintain the data in a XML file. It will maintain the data, okay. We can explore the XML file. We can explore the shared preferences XML file using ADM. ADM is termed as Android Device Monitor. ADM is termed as what? Android Device Monitor. Internally, shared preferences will maintain the data in a XML file. It will maintain the data, and we can open the XML file, and we can see what that XML file contains. We can explore the XML shared preferences XML file using what? Android Device Monitor. Okay, so now let's see here. So we're having a tool called Android Device Monitor. In this Android Device Monitor, you can find an option called File Explorer here. You can find an option called what? File Explorer. In File Explorer, you can find an option called Data is a folder name. You can find a folder called what? Data is a folder name. In this data folder, you can find one more folder called Data is another folder. Android Device Monitor, File Explorer. In File Explorer, you can find a folder called what? Data is a folder name, and you can find one more folder called Data inside this data folder. And inside the data folder, with your application package name, it's going to generate one folder. It's going to.
So where is this ADM?
I'll show
Where is this ADM?
you. Just give me a minute. I'll show you. Just I'm telling the path. I'm telling where it's going to store the data. Let me complete this path. Then I'll show you where the ADM is available. Okay. So File Explorer, Data. Inside the data folder, you can find one more folder called Data with the package name. Inside the package name, with your shared preferences name, you will get an XML file. You will get with your shared preferences name. What are the name you specified for your shared preferences? With that name, you can find one XML file. You can find. With that name, you can find what? One XML file you can find with the name whatever you specified. Okay. First, we'll run the application. We'll run the application. And we'll insert the data. We'll insert, and let's check whether internally it is created the data in XML file or not. Okay. So these are yesterday's example shared preferences test. Let's run the app. This is what the app we created yesterday, right? So first we'll write the data into shared preferences. I'll give some details. I'll give like what is the name, what is the mail ID. Okay, and once if you click the register button, if we click the register button, it will write the data into shared preferences. I'm selecting the register button. I'm selecting. Okay, now it is going to write the data into what? Into shared preferences. It will write the data. Okay, now we'll check whether internally it is created in the XML file or not. If you want to get that XML file, if you want to get, what is the tool name? Android device monitor is a tool. See here in this Android Studio, you can find a tool called Android device monitor. After this SDK manager, or right side to SDK manager, you can find a tool called Android device monitor is a tool. Click on this Android device monitor. Click on Android device monitor. Okay, at left side, how many devices are available? How many devices are available? You will get the devices list. You will get here at the left side. Okay, you can select any device. You can select. I mean, which device data you want to see. You can select that particular device. You can select, and here in File Explorer, you can find a folder called Data is a folder. In File Explorer, you can find a folder called what? Data is a folder. In this data folder, you can find one more folder called Data is another folder. In this data folder, you can find one more folder called what? Data is another folder. Let's click on this data folder. Data, inside the data you can find one more folder called what? Data is another folder. Now in this data folder, you can find a folder with the package name. In this data folder, you can find a folder with the package name. Our application package name is nothing but com.cubex. Our application package name is nothing but what? com.cubex.spf test is a package name. Whatever the package name you specified for your application, with that package name, it's going to create a folder. It will create in your project. Sorry, in this data folder. Let's click on this cubex.spf test, and you can find a folder called shared preferences is a folder. In this shared preferences folder, you can find an XML file. You can find what is the XML file it is created. myprfs.xml is a XML file. myprfs.xml is a XML file. Okay, meaning internally it is stored whatever the name you specified for your shared preferences. Whatever the name you specified for your shared preferences, with that name internally it is created, an XML file is created internally. If you want to see what this XML file contains, here there are two options are there. You can find two options. You can find in the top right corner. One is push a file onto the device. Push a file onto the device to insert a file into the device. Second thing is nothing but pull a file from the device. If you want to insert any file into the device, we use an option called push a file into the device. If you want to get any file, from a device, then we use an option called what? Pull a file from the device. Push a file or pull a file. Which option you have to take? You want to push an XML file, or you want to read the data from XML? We want to read the data. Let's take pull a file from the device storage. So let's save this file on desktop. I want to save this file on desktop. I want to save. So now we stored that file we stored on the desktop. myprfs.xml is a file. So this is XML file. myprfs.xml is a XML file. Now let's open this XML file. Let's open the XML file and see internally it is stored the data in XML file, it is stored the data internally. Internally it is stored the data in XML, it is stored the data internally. Okay, so you got the key we got. What is the key we specified? Uname is a key and this is a value. Mahesh is a value. MNO is a key and this is a value. Password is a key and Cubex is a value. Okay, internally it is stored the data in XML file, it is stored the data. Internally it is stored the data in XML file, it is stored the data. Okay, so now we inserted Mahesh record, we inserted. Now we inserted what? Mahesh record we inserted. Now what we'll do is we'll insert one more record, we'll insert. We'll insert one more record, we'll insert. For example, I'm inserting one more record called Rajesh record I'm inserting. Now in the XML the data is available, Mahesh record is available. Now I'm inserting one more record I'm inserting, that is Rajesh record. What is the password? What is the mobile number? What is the email ID? Okay, so click on this register button, click on the register button. Now it will write the data into a shared preferences, it will write the data. Now let's go to storage and see whether it is created a file or not. Let's go to the Android device monitor. Go to the Android device monitor, just go to that same shared preferences folder. Now pull a XML file again. Pull an XML file again now. And we'll save this file on desktop. Let's save the file on desktop. Now let's open the XML file and see the data, what the data is available. See which record we got now. We got Rajesh record is there. Only one record is there, that is Rajesh record. Now that Mahesh record is also removed. Reason is nothing but, meaning whenever you click the register button, it is storing only the last record it is storing. It is storing what? Only the last record it is storing. The earlier previous records are removing. Okay, so here meaning only the last record it is maintaining. Only it is maintaining what? The last record it is maintaining. Okay, the earlier records are what? Earlier records are removing from the shared preferences. Reason is nothing but, here what is the code we written? Every time we are giving the same keys, we are giving username, password, mobile number and email. Every time when you are inserting the data, we are giving the same key we are giving. It's going to check whether with this name, if there is no value in the shared preferences, it's going to create, a new value it's going to write. If any value is already there with this key, it's going to override that value, it's going to override. That's what happening here. Every time what we are giving is, we are giving the same key we are giving. We are giving the same key we are giving every time. That's why here it is override. It is overriding that values, it is override. That is the problem with the shared preferences. If you want to maintain the multiple values, if you want to maintain for every value, you have to give a unique key, you have to give for every value. That is the main problem with the shared preferences. Okay, is the main problem with what? Shared preferences. Let's see here what exactly the main disadvantage in the shared preferences. By using shared preferences, we can maintain huge amount of data. We can maintain huge amount of data. We can maintain huge amount of data. Yes, it's possible. We can maintain huge amount of data. We can maintain by using shared preferences. Huge amount of data, but for every value, we had to give a unique key. But for every value we have to give what? We have to give a unique key, we have to give for every value. But for every value, we had to give a unique key, we had to give for every value. But for every value, we had to give a unique key, we had to give for every value. Okay, it's difficult to remember and assign the unique keys. It's difficult to remember and assign. It's difficult to remember and assign new keys every time. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to assign and remember a unique keys. For every value, we have to give a unique key. It's difficult to remember and assign new keys for every value. New keys for every value. That's why shared preferences is preferred. That's why shared preferences is preferred to maintain the limited amount of data. Meaning, for example, best example I'll tell you so that you can understand. Try to understand where exactly we can use the shared preferences concept with that example. I hope you are aware of the pattern lock concept, right? You know, to unlock your phones. So we are having a concept called pattern lock concept is there, right? Yeah, let's see what exactly the pattern lock and what is happening in the internally. For example, this is your phone pattern lock. Just give me a minute to complete this one. Okay. For example, I hope you are aware of this pattern lock concept. For example, my phone pattern lock is this one. For example, my phone pattern lock is this is my phone pattern lock. Let me show once. For example, this is my phone pattern lock. This is my phone pattern lock. So what is the key here? Internally 1 4 7 5 9 6 3. Meaning internally for this pattern lock, internally it will store this value, it will store internally. For this pattern lock, internally it will store this value, it will store internally. So 1475963. Internally it will store a number, it will store internally. See, for your for example, for one phone, how many pattern locks you can apply? How many pattern locks you can store for one phone? Only one thing, right? Only one pattern lock to unlock the device. Only one value, and there is also only one time. Only one value was basically they should not. There is no multiple values. Okay, only one value you want to store. At this time, for storing this type of value, you prefer to use shared preferences. because I don't want to multiple values. I don't want to maintain multiple values, and I don't want to make the duplicates also. I don't want to make what duplicates also. I don't want to make. At that time, for these kind of limited values, for storing these type of limited values, Android is preferred to use what shared preferences. Android is preferred to use what shared preferences. For example, your login credentials. For example, username and password is there, right? You're developing an application. You're developing. And once if you select an option called, for example, keep me sign in, a lot of applications you can find the option, right? Keep me sign in is the option. For a lot of applications, you can find the option called keep me sign in is the option. So if you put that keep me sign in option, if you put second time onwards, you need to use the login credentials, right? So here there is an application called some XYZ application, which is having the username and password. And here there is an option called keep me sign in. When user select the keep me sign in option, we'll store these values. Meaning this username and password will store into shared preferences will store. Because for one application, how many login credentials will store? Only one thing, right? Only one user credentials only will store. Meaning whenever user open that particular application, second time onwards, I don't want to take the input. I don't want to take from the user. Automatically, when user select the keep me sign in option, store these values in the shared preferences. Second time onwards, don't take the input from the user. Directly show the values here. Directly show the values here. Okay. So basically, for these type of requirements, here I want how many values you want to store. We want to store only two values. We want to store. One is a username. This username I want to store, and another thing is what password I want to store. So when user select the keep me sign in button, second time onwards, we should not ask the input. We should not take from the user. For these type of requirements, we use what shared preferences concept we use. Shared preferences is preferred to maintain the data in a key comma value pairs. Is used to prefer the data in a key comma value pairs. For storing every value, we'll specify a key. We'll specify for every value. That's it. So you understand uh, where exactly you prefer to where exactly Android is preferred to use the shared preferences. Very simple. If you want to maintain the limited data, if you want to maintain one or two values, and that values also not be duplicates, then at that time we use this shared preferences concept we use. Okay. So shared preferences is preferred to maintain the limited amount of data. If you want to maintain the huge amount of data, if you want to maintain so huge amount of data, Android is preferred to use SQLite database. Android is preferred to use what? SQLite database. Okay. So next we'll discuss a concept called what? SQLite database concept we'll discuss. For storing the limited amount of data, I mean 2 or 3 values or 1 or 2 values if you want to store, you can use the shared preferences concept to use. But you want to maintain a huge amount of data, you want to maintain the multiple values, not only a single value. Then at that time, Android is preferred to use what? SQLite database. Okay. So now we'll see what exactly SQLite database. So this SQLite database is used to maintain structured data in Android. SQLite database is used to maintain SQLite database is used to maintain structured data in Android. Meaning, you want to maintain some data, you want to maintain in a key in a table format. Structured data, I mean in a table format. If you want to maintain the data, then we use this SQLite database concept to use. Is used to maintain structured data in Android. Okay, there is a class called SQLite database. Is a class. SQLite database class is used to maintain SQLite database class is used to maintain SQLite database. and there is a method called open or create database is a method. Open or create database method is used to get the object of SQLite database class is used to maintain SQLite database, and there is a class called open or create database is a method to get the object for SQLite database. So here, if you want to get that SQLite database object, if you want to get SQLite database is equals to open or create database is a method. Open or create database is a method. We have to specify three parameters. We have to specify. First thing is the DB name. First parameter is what? Database name we have to specify in the first parameter. And the second parameter is nothing but mode of the database. First thing is the database name. First thing is what? Database name. Second parameter is mode of the database, and third parameter is cursor factory. Third parameter is what? Cursor factory. SQLite database, open or create database is a method. Database name, mode of the database, and third parameter is what? The cursor factory. Now the name itself is describing open or create, meaning if the database is already available, open the database. If it is not available, create a new database. Okay. Next, SQLite database is providing built-in methods. SQLite database is providing built-in methods to perform CRUD operations. SQLite database is providing built-in methods to perform what? CRUD operations. Like it is providing some built-in methods. It is providing, like for example, if you want to insert the data, insert is a method for inserting the data into database. Query is a method for reading the data from database. And update is a method. Insert, query, update, and delete. So these are the built-in methods. SQLite database is providing built-in methods to perform the CRUD operations. Insert, for reading query is a method, update and delete. Built-in methods to perform the CRUD operations. Apart from the built-in methods, apart from the built-in methods, we can execute the native SQL statements. We can execute the native SQL statements using the following methods. Apart from the built-in methods, we can execute the native SQL statements. We can execute the native SQL statements using the following methods. The methods are nothing but, one is execute SQL is one method. Execute SQL is one method. Another method is raw query is another method. So these are the two methods. Database object dot execute SQL and raw query. These are the methods to execute the SQL statements. Meaning if you are good with the SQL queries, you know how to execute the SQL queries. Directly you can specify the SQL query, you can specify here, and you can execute the SQL query, you can execute. You can execute what? SQL queries you can execute. But this execute SQL method is used for creating a table, for inserting the data into a table, update the data and delete the data. We use these, to perform these operations, we use this execute SQL method we use. And if you want to read the data from the database, we use this raw query method we use. This raw query method is only for reading the data from database. Raw query method is used for reading the data from the database. Okay, and let's see here also same thing. We can exploit the SQLite DB file, meaning we can identify where it is stored the data. We can explore the SQLite DB file. So using ADM, Android device monitor. By using this Android device monitor, there is an option called File Explorer. In File Explorer, data. In the data folder, you can find one more folder called data. In this data folder, you can find a folder with the package name. Inside that package name folder, you can find a folder called databases. Inside the databases folder, you can find a DB file you can find. In the Android device monitor, file explorer, data, package name. Inside the package name, you can find a folder called databases. In databases folder, you can find a file name dot database file you can find. So if you want to see what this database file contains, there is a software called SQLite browser. By using SQLite browser, we can explore SQLite DB file. You can explore. By using SQLite browser, we can explore SQLite DB file. We can explore. Okay. So now let's see here. We'll create a simple application. We'll create. My requirement is I want to maintain some employees details. I want to maintain in the SQLite database. I want to maintain the employees details. I want to maintain in the SQLite database. So we'll create a simple example. We'll create for demonstrating this SQLite database. Let's say my requirement is I want to maintain some employee details. I want to maintain. I want to create a simple application. I want to create. Here I want to maintain the ID. ID, name, designation, and department. Here I want to create 4 buttons. I want to create here. One is insert, read, update, and delete. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Hello, can you hear me? And now can you hear me? Because the internet connection is lost, again it's restored the connection. Can you hear me now? Yeah. So my requirement is I want to maintain the employee details. I want to maintain here. What is the employee ID, name, designation, department? I want to maintain the details I want to maintain. ID, name, designation, department. And here I want to create 4 buttons. I want to create. One is to insert the data into database and read the data from database. Insert, read, update, and delete. Okay. Okay, so I want to create a simple application. I want to create insert, read, update, and delete. And this data I want to maintain in the database. I want to maintain the data. These employee details I want to maintain in a database I want to maintain the data. This is a requirement. These details I want to maintain in a database. I want to maintain the details. The SQLite database I want to maintain these details. Okay. So now we'll see how to work with the SQLite database. Now we'll see how to work with the SQLite database. Okay. So let's create a project first. This is my requirement. I want to maintain the employee details. I want to maintain in the SQLite database. And I want to perform these 4 operations I want to perform. Okay. Let's create a project. File, new. Let's create a new project. Specify the project name here. Specify the project name. Let's take my project name is SQLite test is a project name. I'm creating a project called what? SQLite test is a project name. Next. Again next. So take an empty activity here. Take an empty activity. An empty activity. Next. So by default it is creating an XML file. It is creating. XML file name is activity underscore main is XML file name. And Java file name is main activity is a Java file name. Okay. It is creating an XML and Java it is creating. Okay, so app is created. So what we'll do is first open the XML file, open this activity underscore main.xml. So first change the main UI group. So in place of this relative layout, first we'll change the UI group from relative layout to linear layout. Will change first. First we'll change the main UI group from relative layout to linear layout. Will change, and we specify the XSD location. We don't require the tools attribute. It's not required. And width and height is required, and remaining all the attributes you don't require. You can remove all the remaining other attributes you can remove. And for this linear layout, additionally we have to specify an attribute called orientation is the attribute. So we have to specify what is the orientation, a vertical or horizontal. So I want to present the data in a vertical format I want to present. Let's specify the orientation as what? Vertical is the orientation. So we created a main UI group as linear layout. We created the main UI group. Now inside this, first what we have to do is we want to create 4 text boxes. We want to create match parent, wrap content, and what is the ID you want to configure. ET1 is ID. Let's configure the hint. Will configure enter ID of the employee. Okay. So like this, let's design the UI first. Like this total, I want to create three more text boxes. I want to create like this. So ID, name, okay. So see the design here. So once you select the design, so it will show the preview to show you how it will display on the screen. Enter ID, name, designation, and department. So next, after this linear layout, I want to create. So 4 buttons I want to create. So what we'll do is after this 4 edit text components in a single row, I want to create 2 buttons. I want to create in a single row. So we create a linear layout. We'll create width is match parent, height is wrap content, and specify what is the orientation. So orientation will specify as horizontal. Will specify. Now inside this linear layout, I want to create 2 buttons. I want to create. Inside this linear layout horizontal orientation, I want to create what? 2 buttons I want to create here. Let's create 2 buttons. Width I'm making at 0 dp, and height I specified as wrap content I specified. Width is 0 dp, height is wrap content. In place of width, I want to apply the weight property. I want to apply 0.5 is a weight. And what is the text you want to display? Let's specify the text. Text is equals to I want to display. Insert is the first one. Insert is the text I want to display. We'll configure the click event also. Will configure on click is equals to insert. On click is equals to what? Insert. So like this, we are applying the weight property. We are applying. I hope you are already. We already discussed the weight property. We already discussed. Insert and read. And once again, I want to create one more linear layout. One more linear layout I want to create. Inside the main linear layout, I want to create one more linear layout. I want to create. Update and delete. Okay. Now let's see the design. So I'll show you how it will display on the screen. Insert, read, update, and delete. We created 4 buttons. We created insert, read, update, and delete. And we already configured the click event also. We already configured the click event also. We already configured for these buttons. Okay. Now we have to create these methods. I mean this insert, read, update, and delete. These methods we have to create in the activity class. We have to create these methods. This insert, read, update, and delete. These methods we have to create in the activity class. We have to create these methods. Let's create the methods. Public void. One is insert. A view is the input parameter for this. Insert, read, update, and delete. So we created 4 buttons. And we already configured the click event also. We already configured. So that's why I created 4 methods. I created in the Java. So now get these 4 text boxes also into Java code. So we can close the UI part. We can close it at a time. So we had to get that 4 edit text components. We had to get into our activity class. We had to get that 4 edit text components. We had to get into what? Into activity class. We had to get that 4 edit text components. Okay. 81, 82, 83, and 84. So get that 4 edit text components into your activity class. Okay. So next, so whenever user clicks the insert button, we want to write the data into database. We want to write the data. Into what? Into database. We want to write the data. Meaning first we have to create what? A database we have to create first. First we have to create what? One database we had to create first. We had to create a database we had to create. So if you want to create the database, first create the object for SQLite database class. First we had to create the object for which class? SQLite database class object we had to specify. SQLite database. Initialize this database object. So let's see here. Database is equals to, there is a method called open or create database is a method. You want to get the database object. If you want to get, what is the method name? Open or create database is a method name. Open or create database is a database method name. So total we have to specify 3 parameters we have to specify here. First parameter is the name of the database. Second parameter is the mode of the database. Third parameter is the cursor factory. So these 3 parameters we have to specify: name, mode, and cursor factory. So first parameter, specify the database name. You can give any name you can specify. If there is no any database with that name, it's going to create a database. It's going to create, and we specify the database name as empdb is the database name we specified. What is the database name we specified? empdb is the database name. And second parameter is nothing but mode of the database. Second parameter is what? Mode of the database. Okay. So here also same thing. We'll specify the mode as private. We'll specify context to dot We'll specify mode underscore private. Mean the data is only specific to our application. Other applications cannot access. We specified the database name we specified. We specified what? Database name we specified, and what is the mode of the database? Context dot mode underscore private. And last parameter is nothing but last parameter is a cursor factory. What is the last parameter? It's a cursor factory is the last parameter. It's a optional parameter. I mean, this cursor factory is an optional parameter. We'll make it null. We'll make this cursor factory is a optional parameter. We'll make it null. We'll make. Okay. So this is syntax. First parameter is what? The name of the database. Second parameter is the mode of the database. Third parameter is a cursor factory. It's an optional parameter. We'll specify null. We'll specify. So by using this statement, it's going to create what? A database. It's going to create. By using this statement, it's going to create a database. It is going to create by using this statement, open or create database method. By using this open or create database method, it is going to create a database. It is going to create. But database is not sufficient. Directly cannot write and read the data from the database. Database object is not sufficient. Inside the database, we had to create one table. We had to create. Inside the database, what we had to create? We had to create one table. We had to create. Database is not sufficient. We had to create what? A table also we had to create. Database is not sufficient. We had to create what? A table also we had to create. We had to create what? A table also we had to create in the database. Okay. So if the table is also available, then we can write the data into the table and we can read the data from that particular table. We can read the data. So now we created a database. Now we created what? A database we created. Then after that, we had to create one table. We had to create in that particular database. We had to create one table. We had to create in that particular database. If you want to create a table, if you want to create database object dot execute SQL is a method, because see, we don't have any built-in method for creating a table. The built-in methods are available for insert, query, update, and delete. For these methods, the built-in methods are available, but there is no any built-in method for creating a table. Okay. So if there is no any built-in method, what we had to do is we had to use the native SQL queries we had to use. Meaning we had to write the SQL query we had to write. For executing that SQL query, there are two methods are there. Either we had to use execute SQL method. I mean, your requirement is performing these operations like create, insert, update, and delete. We had to use this execute SQL method we had to use. For example, if your requirement is reading the data from the database, then we had to use this raw query method we had to use. Okay. So let's see here. Database object dot execute SQL is the method. We had to specify the SQL query we had to specify here. We had to specify what? SQL query we had to specify. If you want to create a table, this is a syntax. Create table, specify the table name. For example, I want to create an employee table. I want to create what? Employee table I want to create. Right? I hope you are aware of SQL queries. Okay. So we are creating what? A table we are creating. Create table name, employee. What are all the columns you want to create? Let's specify the column names. First thing I want to create the number column. Column name is ID. And I specify the type as number.
So can you just 1 second repeat when to use execute SQL and when to use the raw query?
Your requirement is you want to do operations like insertion, updation, and deletion. We have to use the execute SQL method. Okay. If your requirement is only the read the data from the database, then at that time we had to use this raw query method we had to use. Clear?
Okay.
If your requirement is only reading, then use the raw query method. Apart from the reading method, For any other operations, we use this execute SQL method we use. Okay. So database dot, but before going to perform those operations, insert and reading and all, first we create a database we created, and next we had to create a table we had to create. I'm creating a table I'm creating called employee. ID is the first column, name, it's a type of string, characters. I'm specifying varchar of 100, meaning 100 characters is the length for name. ID, name, designation, so varchar of 100, comma department. So department varchar of 100. Okay. So here we create a table. So here we are creating a table. We are creating with the name called employee. 4 columns: ID, name, designation, and department. Okay. By using this statement, it's going to create one database. It's going to create, and it's going to create a table. Also, it's going to create. And where we return this logic? Where we return this logic? We return this logic in the onCreate method. We return the logic. We return this logic in the onCreate method. We return the logic. So we are creating what? A database we are creating, and we are creating a table also we are creating in that particular database. I'll repeat once again. We are creating a database we are creating, and we are creating a table we are creating in that database. Okay, let's run the application. Let's run the app now. Run the app in emulator. Meaning we return the logic in the onCreate method. We return the logic in the onCreate. What is the logic written? We created a database we created, and we created what? A table we created. We created a database we created, and we created a table we created. What is loading still? I'll reinstall it again, otherwise. Yeah. So now you got the output you got. Okay. Now here we return the logic in the we return in the onCreate method. We return the logic. We created a database we created, and we by using this statement we created what? A database we created, and by using this statement we are creating a table we are creating in that particular database. We are creating a table we are creating in that particular database. Okay, but before that what we'll do is before going to write this insert and all these logics, first I want to get the confirmation whether the table is created or not. The database is created or not, and the table is created or not. How you'll get the confirmation? See, I told you right here, by using a tool called Android Device Monitor, we can explore the database file. You can explore, meaning where it is created the database. We can explore the database file. You can explore. Here we specify the database name as empdb is the database name. We specified the database name as what? empdb is the database name. With this name, it is going to create one SQLite database file. It's going to create. I want to get that file I want to get, and I want to explore that file I want to explore. If you want to see that one, see, you can find an option called ADM, Android Device Monitor. Select this Android Device Monitor option. Select this Android Device Monitor. Sorry, it's showing it's already running. Okay. In Android Device Monitor, see, the path is same. File Explorer, in File Explorer, Data folder. In this data folder, see, this is not for the user confirmation. This is for the developer confirmation. As a developer, you have to get the confirmation before going to write your insert and reading logic to check whether database is created or not, and file is created or not, table is created or not and all. So in this data folder, you can find one more folder called data is another folder. In this data folder, you can find a folder with the package name. So now we created for SQLite database, right? So here you got a folder, you got here SQLite test. cubex.sqlite test is a folder we got. Now in this folder, cubex.sqlite test folder, there is a folder called databases is a folder. Inside this cubex.sqlite test project, there is a folder called databases is a folder. Databases is the folder. In this databases folder, see there is a database file called empdb is a database file. What is the database file name? empdb. That's what we specified while you are creating a database. Now my requirement is I want to see what this database file contains, what this emp database file contains. Again the same thing, there are two options are there, right? Push and pull. Which option you have to take? Pull a file from the device. Pull a file from the device and specify where you want to save the file. I want to save the file on desktop. I want to save. So here this is a database file name. empdb is a database file name. Here you can find here empdb is the database file name. Okay, we got a database file. We got this is a database file, SQLite database file we got. Now my requirement is I want to see what this database file contains. I want to see what the database file contains. If you want to see what this database file contains, there is a software called what? SQLite browser is a software. We can explore that SQLite database file. We can explore by using a software called SQLite browser software. By using a software called SQLite browser, we can explore that SQLite database file. We can explore. Okay, so here in my system already installed the SQLite browser software already installed. Let's open this SQLite browser software. Let's open the SQLite browser and select the option called open database. Select an option called what? Open database. Open database. Select the database file where the database file is available. It's available on desktop. What is the database file name? What is the database file name? empdb is a database file. See this SQLite browser software easily you can install from the, it's a free software. You can download this software, you can download and you can open the database file, you can open. This is our database file. empdb is a database file. Let's click on this open button. See, there are two tables are there. One is the Android metadata table, and by default you will get this Android metadata table you will get by default. And second thing is the employee table. Second thing is what? Employee table. In this employee table there are four columns are there: ID, name, designation and department. In this employee table there are four columns are there: ID, name, designation and department. These are the four columns. Okay, so as a developer we got the confirmation, we got that the database is created as well as the table is also created, meaning now we have this setup. Now we got the confirmation, we got that we are having a database as well as we are having a table also. It's there, table and database both are available. Now you can write the logic. Now you can write the logic for inserting the data into this database. Now you can write the logic when user clicks the insert button. When user clicks the insert button, write this logic into what? Into database, table. Okay. And one more small change here. The change is nothing but, see, first time we got the output we got first time. First time we got the output we got and we are able to get the data. But second time if you run the application, once again, if you run the application, I'm trying to run the application once again, emulator. First time there is no any issues, right? Second time if you run the application, if you run second time, we are getting an exception we are getting. And see here, first time there is no any issues, but second time if you run the application, you will get an exception you will get. Still it's loading the application. It's taking some two time. First time there is no any issues. Successfully we got the output we got first time. But second time you will get an exception will get. We'll see why we'll get the exception. We run the application. Okay. So let's run the app once again. Sorry, this is the shade preferences example. This is our project, SQLite project. So we have to make a small change. We have to write the creating of a table. See, we got the exception we got. Unfortunately, SQLite test has stopped. So we got the exception we got. See, first time without any error, without any exceptions, we got the output we got first time. But second time, if you open the application, we are getting an exception. We are getting it the second time. Reason is nothing but, see, first time first time there is no any tape. If you want to see the exception, if you want to see what is the reason why we got the exception, open this Android monitor tool. Open the Android monitor. In this Android monitor, you can find the exception information you can find here. You can find the exception information you can find here. See, we got the exception we got caused by android.database.sqlite exception. What is the exception name? SQLite exception is an exception name. That exception name is nothing but table employee already exists. What is the exception it's showing here? Was you are trying to create a table with the name called employee, but with that name already table is already exist. That is what the error we are getting here. Yes. First time there is no any table with the name employee. So that's why first time when you run the application successfully we got the output we got because there is no any table with the name called employee. But second time when you run the application, we are getting an exception we are getting because the table is already there with the name called employee. It's already there. So that's why what we'll do is, we'll add a statement we'll add here, create table if not exist. So we had to add this statement we had to add. Create table if not exist of employee, meaning we are specifying here was create a table if there is no any table with the name called employee. If there is no any table with the name called employee, then only create a table. Otherwise, don't create the table. Create table if not exist of employee. So this statement we had to add now. So if you add this statement, if the table is already available, simply it's going to ignore that one. The table is not available, it's going to create a table it will create. Now let's see the output once to understand. Run the application again. See, now we got the output we got, there is no any exception. Earlier we got the exception we got. So after adding this statement, create table if not exist, now we are not getting any exception we are not getting. Okay, sorry, clear? So just work on up to this. I mean creating a table and create the database.